dear all, to the Kaustinen ICH Academy. So the ICH is coming from the words Intangible Cultural Heritage, and this our Kaustinen fiddle playing here was inscribed to the UNESCO list in 21, and we have invited a lot of guests from all over the world to join us here and speaking with us about the intangible cultural heritage and the safeguarding our heritage. And now we have guests from Quebec, and I try my best to pronounce your name, Le Diable Cinq.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Quite fluent in my Quebec skills already. But your topic was safeguarding traditional music in Quebec, and then we will hear more about that for half an hour, and then 2 more presentations and maybe a little break after that. Welcome.
Yes, thank you very much.
Hi everyone.
Yeah.
We are the Diable Cinq from Quebec, Canada. So our first language is French. Sorry for the little accent in English. For the next half an hour.
For the small story, maybe Le Diable Cinq, it means devil at 5. So it's like a local expression we have in Quebec. So a local expression that we mixed a bit, and then it's we're 5 in the band. So only 3 today, but 5 in the band. So there's 5 devils in the band.
So for the next 30 minutes, we could talk about maybe the history and then how the traditional music evolved in Quebec right now. But first of all, I think it's important for us to tell that the Diable Cinq, especially our band, we are mainly play this music because we like this music. So it's we don't really have this mission of conservation, or we really play this music for fun. We was young, we was playing music in our family, we was playing traditional music all around. My grandparents was playing, in your family too was playing music, so we start playing music together, and then we start this project, this band, and then now 10 years later we still play music because we like this. It's like and we like the côté rassembleur, so just to bring people together, to bring people like younger and older people together. So all this part of the music is the basics of our band.
Yeah, and what makes traditional music special in Quebec, and a bit like Remy said, it's a music that really brings people together. The way it is played in Quebec, it is very, dynamic, and Remy will talk a bit about the history of, how it was played and everything. But there's this, history of the traditional music was a music that is passed by from generation to generation, and it was kind of the popular music back in the days, and now it's a bit less popular. We'll discuss about it, but it still is a strong music, and people in Quebec, it's it's the identity of the people in Quebec, because we are this French, ex-French colony in Canada, and it's surrounded by all those English-speaking people. And then in Quebec we have the language that is different, and also the influences, musical influence we have. So we have very typical, way of singing songs and playing music that is very much different from all around. So that's something that makes us proud, and that makes also the Quebecer proud. And so that's mainly what we play. And we need firstly to know that Quebec, back in the days, in the 1600th century, well, it was colonized by French people, so we are a descendant of those French. And then through the years we had some immigration from different countries, Irish people, Scotland people, and many others that bring
mixed with the First Nation.
Yeah, also mixed with the First Nation. So we're kind of a mixed community, and then all around it's mostly English people, and there is immigration as well. But the traditional music, well, it starts with French people that came in Quebec in the 1600th century. So yeah.
And so one important part of this music, I think, is through the year, this French community stay in Quebec and stay strong, right? So now Canada is bilingual, officially it's English and French, but the province of Quebec is super French. We are talking French currently. And then it's I don't think we keep the music because we're really proud of this music, but it's continued through the year with that strong cultural difference with the rest of the Canada, right? So it's really specific to that region. And then yes, through the year we had a lot of influence, like Edouard said, from US, from Scotland, from Irish, from France. So our traditional music is like a mix of all those influence, but we have really specific things. So here we have these feet stomping. I don't know if you ever heard about this, the feet stomping. So maybe I could show you a bit. It's I bring those special shoes here, which are too big for me. It's not mine, but I will use it today.
His are stuck in the plane back in Canada.
Yeah, mine stay in Quebec. So. So back in the days, what happened is the man was going during the winter in camp and was cutting woods all the winter. So they was like letting the wife at the farm, and they was going north, cut the woods, and then they was bringing some violin and instruments, and then this this camp was all men, and then they wanted to play music and dance. So they needed something that was strong for dancing. So they was like using their shoes to make some beats, because they don't have like drums or whatever what. And then they was just like starting by stepping on the floor, and then they developed this specificity there while playing music. And then like what they wanted is just to make everyone dance, right? So people was like, we can see photo of people playing banjo and then or violin, and then like feet stomping. And then the basic of this is what just try to make people like step up and dance, right? So yeah, maybe just a little show. So the I will say the basic song is 4/4 time. So it goes like that. So that's the 4 time. It's like really like you all also have the
J
chord, so 6/8. That's like gigs. And then yeah, that's the more used one.
Tu peux faire un peu toute le poids là-bas.
Right. So people was like just using that as like the bass, the percussions instruments.
Yeah, and that difference, because in some other, culture, there's also some feet stomping, but in Quebec we really developed, more specific feet stomping with the tac, chaka, tac, and where we place the accent, and it's really viewed as like kind of a bass drum, and we want it louder, and it's like, it is an instrument more than just putting the beat. It is part of the songs in Quebec.
Yeah.
So on those two main forms.
On the show we had a Stonebox. It's like a really bassy sound. We put the accent, so it's like a kick drum a little bit more. That's part of our way to trying to put this music actual. So yeah, it's kind of old music, old sound and stuff like that, but it has lived an evolution really nice, I think. And now where we are, we try to put this really actual, even if it's from last century or thing like that. It's not important for us. We bring some, let's say, actual sound like this, like the bass kick, and sometimes we had different grooves that are not typical in the way that it should be in the traditional way. But it worked really good, and I think for us it's important to bring it really like now, because it's for now that we play this music, even if it's from the past. And we don't not say respect, but some people will say, no, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, because at the time it was like this and like that. I don't think we are in this mentality. We sometimes songs they just need some adjustment to be better. For instance, some lyric that we sing might be a little bit disrespectful, sometimes against women, sometimes against reality that has been changed. So we are not obligated to sing this because it was sing like this 100 years before. The reality was kind of different, and it's make no sense to sing it now. You know, it's not representing what we want and what the society is right now. So it's a nonsense to just take the lyric as it is if they contain something that we're not agree with. But some people, they will say, no, it was like this, so you need to do. It's not the case for us. We try to really put it the more convenient, accessible, actual as possible. And I think this is a mark that we have in our music. People, I think they like it. They like this way to do it, and it's important for us, I think, to not keep thing, really in a square box, just to get a little bit out of it.
You can come if you want, don't be shy, there's chairs here in the front.
We have a networking dinner.
Oh, okay.
A dinner lunch.
So we explained a bit, maybe some old influence in the traditional music. Sam explained a bit more our way as a band, the Diable, Cinq, how we see it, and that's, that makes this music now is still played by a lot of youngster band, a bit like in Kaustinen, we see like lots of musicians here. It's really impressive. We do have those kinds of festival, like a very tight network in Quebec. So there's like maybe around 40 festivals in Quebec. Some are really small, some are bigger, but we do have those jam sessions. And even out of the festivals, there's regularly, jam session in the big cities and in smaller cities as well. And some people that are passionate about this music that we play, that keep, showing it, and there's musical camps, young people. So I think that's the way, in order to preserve that traditional music, we need to keep playing it and keep, lighting the flame to young people to like it and play it because it's fun, and they can see them in this music a bit like we do, and then so more people can hear it, more people can relate to the music instead of just seeing it as an object of the past and not as something actual. Because the main problem in Quebec and Canada, probably all around, is the traditional music. It's not very played in the commercial radio, and it's not something that in the popular music world, it's not something very popular. So it's tough to hear traditional music at the radio or at the TV unless it is like Christmas time and the springtime when we do this maple syrup. So then it's very typical traditional activity in Quebec. So then they associate it with traditional music, but besides those two moments of the year, it's nobody listen to it in the big public, so it's tough to to make people hear the music and relate to it. But it's a constant fight, let's say. But the way we want to to do this fight is just play as much as we can in popular mainstream events and just make that music accessible, and so that youngster can relate to it, and then maybe try to learn violin or accordion or feet stomp and stuff like that.
Another nice part or specificity about our music is all our song. So people used to in French just more like call story about what's happened back in the times, normal story, like talking about random situation. What is really nice right now, because like with the time, and we have a lot of immigration and all of this, we have these songs that bring the continue the culture, right, through the times. So I think it's a nice way still for us to continue those story. It's a nice way to talk about our culture, and then so yeah, they have the story, but they have to the way we sing those songs. I think it's like quite a specific from Quebec. It's called an answer song. So we are really strong on that. We like that because we are people really. We like to put people together, right? We are like we
party people.
Yeah, party people. So when we sing this traditional song, like the goal is to make everyone sing together, right? So we will call a sentence, and then everyone else will answer the same sentence, right? So yeah, maybe I
Give an
can
example.
do an example. So you can try to answer with us.
With the feed.
Yeah, with the feed and everything. Ce sont les sœurs de Couvent, ce sont les sœurs de Couvent.
Ce sont les sœurs du couvent, ce sont les sœurs du couvent.
Elles ont fait porte ici, dans son alentour, dans son alentour.
Et dans son alentour, et dans son alentour.
Elles ont fait un port de cigares. Elles ont fait un port de cigares.
Elles ont fait un port de cigares. Elles ont fait un port de cigares.
Elles ont trouvé un minéral dans son alentour, dans son alentour.
Dans son alentour, et dans son alentour.
Puis dans son alentour, son alentour.
Et dans son alentour, et dans son alentour.
See, so it's like
Yeah. And this is really appreciated by the people in Quebec. This type of song, I'd say it's the more appreciated part that you can maybe hear in some commercial radio or some even publicity, they can use it. But just a little story like this, we wanted to promote one of our song to the radio, to a big station. Then when they have standard to play some song, and the guy who was pushing our song just said, oh, first of all, we need to cut all the accordion of the pieces. And we said, why? This is like the strongest part in this song. He said, yes, but they don't. It's like in the standard of the radio, you cannot hear accordion. So how crazy it is. Like it needs to fit in this little case, to be played. So we need to edit our song to put some instrument out, and all the part like the jigs, the traditional part, they needed to take it out. So we needed to make a pop song. They want it like this because otherwise they don't want to. I know they want to pass this, but there's a big it's a prejudice. I don't know if you can say this in English, but I mean for us, also for entering a bigger market, like we have some big festival in Quebec. When you said you're making traditional music, you always start with two. In French, we said when you play baseball, you know what I mean. You start with two swing, two strikes, So you start and they yeah, but when they hear this, they don't like it, But at least when they see the show, at this moment, there's no problem anymore. But we need to go to this point that they let us, okay, please give a try, be there to one show, listen to one song. But majority of them, they just don't go to this step. They said traditional, accordion.
But that is the
way, It's crazy. Like, I mean, in my opinion, the number of festivals we did, that was out a bit of the track. They all have good experiences and they really like it. Oh my God, I didn't thought it would be like this, that people will cheer like this. But they give it a try, If you don't, you will never know. They prefer some other musical type that are maybe more tendency. Probably it's the same thing here, I don't know. For us, the country now, it's a bit the American traditional. It's pretty strong, pretty strong. The air country everywhere, people, they're wearing those hats, those boots. I don't know why. It's just the United States traditional. They don't care about our traditional stuff, but they care about. It's all about commercial things, publicity, fashion,
But I think what Samuel's trying to explain is it is a challenge to, as young people, to keep strong to the music and believe in what we play. And in the example he said about the commercial radio, we never edited the song to remove the accordion. Sometimes we did some edit to shorten the song, maybe remove big part of the jig and stuff like that to make it more radio accessible. We had not that much of success, but we tried to stay true to what we do instead of just, format our music and then.
The suggestion we had was
the suggestion was that, but we didn't do it. And the way to strengthen, and to safeguard the traditional music is, for us, it's just to stay true to our roots and to believe in what we do instead of, formatting what we do to fit in the you know, in this nice oven, in this nice bar. So this is a challenge, and sometimes it can shut down some doors of some more major festival or more commercially available. But personally, I believe it's by keeping, you know, doing what we do with fun, with joy, and to see, like we do a nice tour now all around Europe, and we can see even in different cultures, different country, kind of music we play, it gathers people around. It is quite simple music to, you know, to be able to dance, to be able to try to sing, even if you don't understand the French. The goal is to make some noise, to cheer all together, bring people together, and it's the same back in Quebec, that people. When they hear and when they see the show, this is a really accessible music, but the main challenge is to, you know, to get access to those platforms and to.
It's really special because in Quebec, you know, like it's not the traditional music, it's not the mainstream music. That's what we hear it. Like the American and English music and like all the, you know, this commercial music is so strong in our country. So all the market, like the massive festivals, the radios, all this stuff, don't push our music. But on the second hand, every time we'll play, every time we'll go somewhere, everyone's always loved this music. So we hope it will change with time. We still play this music, we still try to play as much as possible, because every time we play this, people like, this music is so alive, right? It's so strong of culture, so strong of story too, so people really like it, and then they will come to see us after and say, oh yeah, I remember this situation, and we will have like so nice story about when we play. Sometimes people will say, oh, I get married on your song, I get like this, I have this story, I met my what was that story with the kids never meet like his father, and then he like the music bring them together like after 10 years, and then so it's it's really good for this in Quebec. So maybe I would like to let you like maybe ask question if you want, and we have a little 5 more minutes together, 10 minutes. So maybe you have like some question about our music or the way we made it.
Maybe a small thing we didn't mention, we mentioned about the feet stomping, a bit where it comes from, but then just general information, the music, what is funny is lots of the songs we sing, like the call and answer song, the old French songs, you can hear them back in France nowadays. Those are quite different, and because this was music, oral music, just passed by from generation to generation, you can recognize part of the lyrics, maybe the beat, but then it's all changed from the 2 versions. So it's sometimes weird to see that, but it's nice to, you know, to see that the songs evaluated differently from country to country. And then, like I said, with the immigration and stuff, we had like with the Irish people, Scotland people, then it bring more like the accordion, the reels. So we usually have like one part of the song is like an old French song that has changed through the year, and we have our own style in it, and then it's like, you know, it's glued with a reel after that, a 4/4 reel or a jig, and then sometimes it's like traditional song from Scotland, Irish, and then some songs that were original from Quebec, and now us as a band, we do our own composition, we create some songs, and sometimes we take part of a text, of an old text, we put it more actual, like Samuel said. Sometimes we write a new song all together. Sometimes we take part of an old reel. So we try to mix a bit everything and let us be inspired by what already exists in the traditional, but also to be inspired by what is more actual, like some grooves, and to do something that makes us feel alive and makes the music we play feel alive for the other person. So yeah, if you have any question about it, I know it was a lot. We did it a bit by inspiration. So anything, any question you have?
English practice for us. Yeah, go ahead if you wanted to know something or.
Yes.
Very interesting that. I talked about and thank you for and for also with that for the
would say like the kind of music that we play, it's mostly European influence. There's not that, unfortunately. Nowadays there's more a movement of recognizing like the indigenous. I would say it's not that old, that movement, unfortunately. We hear more and more about it, and we hear more and more about the indigenous music. There might be, maybe Remy knows more about it because he studied traditional music at the college, but if there's some, songs that are a match with a mix with the indigenous people, but from what I know, it's mostly like European influence, and then after people, there's some person in the province that compose music in the style of those like influence from Europe to develop our own style, but there's not that much intertwined with the indigenous people in Quebec.
It's a pretty sad story in Canada. Like when Europeans came, we push away the indigenous people. But now there is like this take of conscience, right? So we try to talk more with them. We try to put everyone more together. It's a little bit too late, right? But so yeah, our traditional music from Quebec, it's really, really European, really, really American. We have a lot of American stuff coming too about the traditional American song. But the good news is that in Quebec we treat the traditional music as something always in movement, right? So this is where we change the lyrics. This is why we bring new stuff in it. It's kind of the most popular song will stay, and so I hope that the music from indigenous people will come and merge with us music. So we'll have like
and
better days.
We have good example. We've been to Japan in May to the World Expo there, and we saw like a Micmac artist from Newfoundland. I think it was Newfoundland, and he was playing. It wasn't Quebec's traditional music, but it was like in the east of Canada. It's maybe more Scotland influence, and I don't know much about typically their traditional music, but there's since it's all influenced by different European culture through the years, there's some jigs, and then when we heard his show, there was some form that looked a lot like what we do, but he was singing some songs in Micmac there, and then some songs in English. So it's all getting intertwined, and in Quebec as well, Shawit, like another artist, he's putting some traditional influence in his song that are, indigenous song, and then he's singing sometime in his original language, sometime in French, and he's inviting some traditional artists like Yves Lambert. So it's more something modern now that is starting to have like this recognizing the indigenous arts, and then maybe it's getting mixed in the traditional, but typically it was like more
But for some song, like in the lyrics, you can hear about traditional people. Sometimes when they tell a story, for example, in some lyrics, even some part of song could be inspired because they had a little mix. But sadly, when the European arrived, it's kind of made like territory for the indigenous people and for the Europeans. So there was like, I'd say, two countries in one. It was pretty separated, and it's pretty sad. But we sadly cannot change this part of history. But like Remy said, we're really happy that now music is in movement, and we heard more and more about it, and it feels great. It feels good, and I do think like these two music can merge pretty good in a pretty good way. Yeah.
I just have one comment, if I may. It sounds like from what you're talking is really the living heritage, not like a museum piece that you're putting on display and repeating it exactly the way it was done in Quebec or in France hundreds of years ago. You're changing the lyrics, doing whatever is necessary in this time and in this space, and it's the living heritage that you use, the intangible cultural heritage idea that you right now, you practitioners, are doing it the way you're doing, and then the next generation of practitioners will do it a little bit differently maybe. I like that personally. I think it's great. sounded like what you were describing.
I think it's something like pretty general in Quebec. It's not just us. When I was studying this music, everyone was talking about this evolution of the music,
Yeah.
right? I was talking later before.
Because if you
about,
want
like,
to keep
the
it
song.
alive, you need to adapt.
Yeah, you need
Otherwise,
to
it
have a song,
gets
right?
you know on a tablet in the museum.
Yeah.
And then especially like the lyrics, right? The lyrics is a massive part. We talk about the story, like story happens back in the days, and sometimes the song is pretty cool and then the story is pretty good, but there is part that you're like, no, you cannot say this. Like the words you'll like use are the way like men talking about women or stuff
Yeah.
like that. Right now, we will change it. We'll just change this part because we want to play that song. It's a good story, good song.
Mhm.
And then we will just change this little part because we don't agree with that anymore. So that's changing the history. We change the lyrics and then continue the whole song, right? And then it's a way to evaluate and keep the music like alive.
And I would add maybe there's like in everything there's a broad range of artists and people playing the traditional music. So we are in that kind of movements, trying to keep it like more actual and taking the liberty to change the lyrics and I think Sam mentioned it a bit earlier. There's also some performers like some person that just they want
A bit more.
Like it
more,
was.
rigid. So it's like this is the way you play it. You need you can add a time there. That reel is played like that, and those lyrics you can change it. So it is a wide spectrum in Quebec, and there's some like not even more than us, but there's some band that doing more like a cerebral work around the traditional music, and then it's almost like jazz music mix. So it's a lot more fusion than when we do it. What we do, you can hear it's traditional music, but we change some grooves, some lyrics, but then some bands, it's like a very good mix. So we have that wide spectrum, and I think it's like in every music style, and that what makes it interesting. You can still hear some bands or some.
But we are still pretty conservative on some specific thing. The beat is the basics. Everyone use it. The instruments. Not a lot of people will use saxophone or thing like that, like Labotin Soyan did a bit, but it's not everyone like it in Quebec. So yeah, violin, guitar, like banjo, accordion, it's like a basics. Colin Answer song is a basic. So those basics like continue in time, but little things like sometimes those new reels, new rhythm will come into the music. Yeah, just a little sparkle.
Wow, thank you so much for this wonderful discussion.
Yes.
It was really wonderful to follow you, and we are so happy that you came to visit us to the Kaustinen ICH.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are playing tonight at 9:45 at the KPO Arena. Tomorrow, Monday, so be there if you want to experience it.
You will experience it. Yes.
We want to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'll take over from here. Let Oti continue her duties as a musician for today. So we'll continue our program. We have Pushpa Palanchoke coming to present us. Thanks. Pushpa is from Nepal, Kathmandu. Are you originally from Kathmandu, by the way?
I am from Banipa.
Banipa?
Yeah.
Okay, close in Kathmandu Valley. Anyway, so Pushpa is Master of Ethnomusicology from the Kathmandu University and currently pursuing her doctorate at the Cinq Academy. Mutri Doctoral School, and she will talk about issues concerning heritage, the critical perspectives when preservation silences. So Pushpa, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Vilma. Oh, I should be here because the computer is here. Sorry. I went to the other side. Thank you so much, Vilma, and it's really lovely to be here at ICH Academy in person. I was there last year. I was here last year online. Let's begin. Let's begin by reflecting on these quotes from interviews and focus group discussions with women heritage practitioners from Nepal. The first quote says, "We are not allowed to say certain things. According to the rules, we cannot criticize or speak out against anyone. Otherwise, we could have easily said things boldly, like they did this to us, they treated us that way, and would have openly called them out. But rules have been set. We are not allowed to create or speak through disagreement or conflict." So women practitioners from disadvantaged caste groups state that they have no representatives from their caste in the judging panel of the heritage competition that they routinely participate in. And they feel like they are never given opportunities like those offered to upper caste participants. Yet, they are silenced. Despite having such a powerful means with themselves, their own voice, their songs, they cannot really sing about this in their songs because the competition's rules restrict them to do so. Another practitioner says, "Please don't include songs that mention alcohol bottles, please." So another practitioner, after recording a song that mentioned about alcohol during an interview, asked me to remove the reference because, of course, women from good households cannot be associated with alcohol. Moving on, the final one, this is the answer that I received when I asked about women's status in society altogether, and this is the answer that I received. So, well, after everything, what kind of a role is left for women now? Vice chairperson? So vice is the highlight here. So these lines actually reflect both censorship and tokenistic or limited roles offered to women in music heritage practices. They also point out the intersections of gender and other inequalities that are there in Nepali society. So in my presentation today, I will be reflecting on the experiences of women heritage practitioners in Nepal. These practitioners, they practice a women-specific music heritage called Ratyoli, and it is from west of Nepal. So my recent interaction with 12 women between 30 to 60 of ages gives an insight into what a woman's heritage has to navigate through in a patriarchal, social, cultural structure. And these interactions actually happened as interviews and focus group discussions as part of my sub-study under Project Amplify Her, which Vilma is also part of. Amplify Her, which is also called Transition Pathways Towards Gender Inclusion in the Changing Musical Landscape of Nepal. It is a Finland-Nepal collaboration, and it is funded by Research Council of Finland. For today's presentation, aside from the interviews and focus group discussions, I will also be reflecting and referring to my observation of over 10 different YouTube videos of this particular tradition, Ratyoli, where women, and these videos are where these women are performing Ratyoli for public competitions and also in their traditional settings. These videos, because of course they actually compel us to ask who defines women's heritage. So let me actually begin by giving you a bit of context of my research and also of Amplify Her. So Amplify Her, along with my research, emerges against the backdrop of a stark global reality that women have little to no access to decision making and leadership roles, and they remain vulnerable to gender-based discrimination. This disparity, it actually extends to the fields of music education and music heritage equally. What further exacerbates these exclusions is the lack of global discussion on how women and other sexual minorities are systemically denied access to music making and even music education, and how they lack agency in deciding what and how to present their work publicly. And they are often unable also to claim or be recognized for their own music heritage. Past research on music heritages, they reflect historically unequal representation of women. So for Laura Zane Smith, heritages are sites where women can engage in acts of communication and meaning making in and for the present. Yet, other researchers like Bigenho and Stobart have found that heritage performed by women, they often remain unrecognized. And we have examples from all around the globe, including floating festivals of Japan, where music heritages turn to women as their last resort for preserving dying past, right, rather than something that is created in the present, and establishing and stereotyping women all again onto subordinate positions. So many music heritage sites prioritize therefore preservation and promotion over the cost of sustainable goals of gender equality that we all talk about. So moving on, now I would like to briefly situate Nepal within the geopolitical landscape and also give you a little bit of hint of history of Nepal, where this music heritage of the women that I'm talking about, particularly today, is situated in. So Nepal became a federal republic in 2013 following a decade-long Maoist insurgency, a civil war, and heightened ethnic indigenous identity along with the civil war. So since then, a prominent social political focus has been on preserving and promoting ethnic and indigenous groups' heritage, and this call has often overshadowed other ongoing injustices and inequalities that persist against a backdrop of deeply rooted gender hierarchy system. So the preservation and promotion meta-narrative, what they are often doing is they are coming at the expense of the gender inclusivity promised by the constitution of the country itself. So amidst the growing concern from local authorities about preserving and promoting heritage, both tangible and intangible heritage, these heritage sites where the music is performed or the music itself are widely championed as symbols of ancestral legacy, national identity, and vital assets for tourism. However, what this kind of meta-narrative they really do is they turn a blind eye on the gender exclusionary practices within music heritage, and they further also exaggerate other kind of inequalities that intersect with gender inequalities, such as other social inequalities rooted in caste, religion, class, and even age. So just trying to give you some examples. So I remember, as a girl, I faced significant restrictions on going out of the house. So women's public presence and both performance are relatively recent phenomena in Nepal. And I also remember growing up, I constantly heard from my mother or from my other female relatives about the specific etiquettes only women had to follow regarding their public appearance and mobility. So women are actually expected, even today, for a lot of girls and women of my age also, they are expected to remain within home, and they are expected to take care of the household chores, and their social engagement, including education, employment, or other kind of public appearances, these kind of decisions are mostly made by their father or after marriage their husband. So women's participation in music was, and still in many cases, is not readily accepted and is often considered obscene. So though more and more girls and women, they are participating in music making today, within highly valued heritage discourse, however, men of higher caste, religion, class, and age, they are often positioned as the custodians, whereas women and other minorities, they are placed in peripheral roles with little to no agency and decision-making power altogether. Besides, women's music heritages aren't even recognized, and even if they are, their public forms are adapted to the patriarchal norms and structure, and even capitalized by the patriarchal forces. And the tradition that I'm going to talk today is exactly an example of the same thing. So now let's come to the tradition that I'm talking about today, Ratyoli. So Ratyoli is a traditional women-only musical event performed during wedding celebrations in Nepal, especially the night before the bride joins the groom's household. It features singing with lyrical improvisations and along with lyrical improvisations, there are dancing, drumming, joking, and theatrical skills, often using sexual innuendo and social satire. This wedding-related tradition includes songs about wedding rituals itself as well, and the expectation placed on newly wedded daughter-in-law who typically move into their in-laws' homes. And these songs also include anxieties of a mother who is expected to give birth to a son, and the songs includes anxieties of a mother who is now anticipating emotional disconnection from her son who is now getting married. So the expression of women's sexual desires and frustrations both are performed and sung in a distinctive aspect of this heritage. And the gathering also includes playful and structured performances, often featuring a maxed character called Luto. I will talk a bit about this character later in the presentation. Luto is the character who intensifies the humor and sexual theme of the tradition altogether. There is a belief that if this setting, if Ratyoli is not performed, it will bring bad luck to the marriage. So talking about Ratyoli, who Ratyoli belongs to. So Ratyoli is specific to Hindu, Indo-Aryan castes, the high caste Brahmin and Kshatri people, who are also considered the internal colonizers of Nepal, and they also have a strong reputation of imposing patriarchal norms on other indigenous communities of the country. So Ratyoli within their social structure, therefore, within the social structure of Brahmin Kshatri caste, appears to be an oasis for women, where even civilized women from higher caste could act however they pleased, right? So Ratyoli therefore also has its own negative reputation among this caste. So despite being an important part of the wedding ceremony, what is also paradoxical is it is condemned for making women undisciplined and for supposedly having a harmful effect on her family, her marriage life, and on her roles as wife and mothers. However, amidst this paradox, one of my interviewees fondly recalls representing voices of other Ratyoli practitioners. So she says, "We used to go, yes, we went. Even though we would get beaten by fathers and grandfathers, even though we struggled, we never gave up singing." So this quote underscores both the social resistance embedded in Ratyoli and its enduring appeal to women in patriarchal social structure. So now I will briefly talk about significance of Ratyoli. So this first quote here, it says, "We learned it from our mothers and grandmothers. Our grandmother would make a horse out of a banana stalk and have wild fun." So this practitioner is defining and recalling the generational transmission of Ratyoli tradition while highlighting how grandmothers taught playful, even subversive forms of fun, turning everyday objects into props of imaginative, uninhibited performance. It also suggests how Ratyoli was a space where women creatively claimed joy and agency in a society where she was confined to caregiving roles. This second quote says, women want to be luto, want to be like men in this male-dominated society. In Ratyoli, they can let their hearts and words loose and have fun, letting out what's inside, expressing desires and opposition, becoming luto, riding a horse. In real life, we weren't allowed to ride horses, right? Women weren't supposed to ride. Even inside our own minds, we weren't allowed to say so many things. So this quote, it powerfully reveals how Ratyoli provides a rare space for women to express what is otherwise suppressed in a male-dominated society. It highlights Ratyoli as both an emotional outlet and a subtle act of resistance against gender restrictions. So now, because we have heard so much about Luto, I would like to talk a bit about this character now. So in this image is a Luto. So a Luto is a masked and cross-dressed performer, often playing a role of a male. So you can see in the picture, the Luto has their face covered and has a phallus-like object hanging from their vest. So Ratyoli is said to be more fun when no one can tell who is in the disguise as Luto. You might have figured out why so. So Luto animates Ratyoli gatherings with jokes and playful banter. As the group of singers sing songs with sexual innuendo, the Luto teases the participants into dancing with them. They provoke laughter, they encourage teasing and create a lively atmosphere. So Luto performances allow women to explore taboo topics, to mock social norms and men's privileges, and express hidden desires in safe, ritualized space of Ratyoli. And Luto also helps temporarily overturn social hierarchies and enables collective catharsis and social critique. So as mentioned in the initial quote, the former quote, women were not allowed to ride horses back in days, and women were not also allowed to go and participate in the groom's wedding. So acting out as a man, they were actually participating in the marriage as men, but in their own ritualized space, right? So that being said, practice of Ratyoli, however, today reveals an important tensions between traditions, censorship, and evolving role of women's voices in Nepali society. So now I will talk why and how is that so. So today Ratyoli has evolved into a popular and institutionalized musical tradition. Most neighborhoods have their own dedicated women's group responsible for providing musical performances during auspicious occasions, including weddings of their community members. Unlike earlier times, Ratyoli is no longer performed exclusively at night, nor is it limited to women only. So men now actively participate in these performances and in some cases even capitalize on them. So for instance, in wedding events, male percussionists are often hired to accompany the women's group and are typically paid twice as much as the women's group themselves. So well, what do the women practitioners themselves have to say about these changes? So one of my interviewees said, there's this idea in families that Ratyoli makes people shameless, that going to Ratyoli leads to families falling apart. But if we can include those people who think that way, then they might realize, oh, by participating in this, we ourselves aren't getting ruined, nor is our family falling apart. So we should be involved in this, and we should let our sons and grandsons hear it too. That understanding should come to men as well. And another interviewee says, if men also start participating in such programs, then the violence and physical exploitation against women can be controlled as well. So these perspectives, they suggest optimism about inclusion. However, they also raise a critical question. at what cost are we making Ratyoli more inclusive? In women's traditions, men also need to be included, and that should be taken in a positive way. The explicit themes of Ratyoli have been disappearing though, in the name of making things civilized, says one of my interviewees. Another interviewee says, we filter the words to make them polite and acceptable to hear. So as these quotes reflect, women today feel compelled to filter their lyrics to ensure they are polite, respectable, and suitable for wider intergenerational and mixed gender audiences. So in addition to wedding settings themselves being different and inviting male percussionists into the setting, Ratyoli is now also frequently staged in public competitions organized by both governmental and non-governmental institutions under the banner of cultural promotion. So in this picture, the front row features the singers, if you can see them. I hope you see them because, okay, you don't see. But anyways, the first row are the singers of Ratyoli, who are always accompanied by a dancer. If you can see this woman who is very animated with her features, she is a dancer who accompanies the singers, and she imitates everything into her dancing movements as the singers sing by, and she is later joined by a luto together. And the second row, if you can see, this is actually a representation of groom's party who are now heading to bring the bride back home to groom's family. Although not visible in this frame, the last row typically consists of all male instrumentalists who accompany the singing. So this structure is consistent across every Ratyoli stage performance today. For an expert that I interviewed, in public stage performances, competition organizers seem particularly drawn to Ratyoli because of its association with sexual themes, though performers are constrained by rules to sing only on specific themes alone. However, according to the expert, the mere association is enough to attract larger audience to the whole festival altogether. And my interviewees, they do express appreciation for the increased visibility that they have today through the competitions. However, again, the question is at what cost? So, one of my practitioners elaborated what authenticity of Ratyoli means for her today. So authenticity means the experience from raising sons to getting them married. It's exactly about the son and daughter-in-law, what is done when the groom's party goes, what is done when they return home with the bride, and how the home is decorated. All of that is shown and thought through it. So now you can see that slowly the authenticity of this tradition is now seen to be slowly shrinking from women's interest to now only talking about raising a son and then getting the son married, right? Because I don't have enough time, I will do this slide very quickly, and maybe this is one of the interesting slides that I have. So I quickly want to talk to you about how Ratyoli is represented on social media. So here on screen are two thumbnails from YouTube videos about Ratyoli. So the first one on the left is from a traditional wedding setting, while the second one on the right is from a public competition. What is common to both videos is their provocative titles and complete lack of description. The first title says TikTok viral and Lakuri Thardinza, which refers to an erected phallus. And the second one says, this is how Ratyoli should be, and it is accompanied by subtitle, after Luto made a wild spectacle, the audience collapsed laughing. So these representations, you can see that they are sensationalizing Raktioli's sexual themes while stripping away its cultural and ritual context and its importance to women's lived experiences. You can also see that the first video, has 555k views, and when I actually contacted the person who runs this channel, my friend actually tried to convince him to meet for my research interview. However, he kept ignoring us altogether, and he made one thing very clear in a phone call. He said that if you are looking for content, I can share it with you, no need to meet. So from his response to us, what I could actually feel that there is very little sense of allyship and responsibility toward the tradition or its practitioners. So, let's keep this. So, just briefly concluding, what we see in the case of Raktioli is there is a complex layering of heritage and hegemony, where women as traditional heritage bearers, they continue to express, preserve and reimagine cultural knowledge, however often under deeply patriarchal constraints. What emerges in this setting is a paradox, like heritage is amplified, yet women's voices are increasingly filtered, made palatable to fit a capitalistic and male-dominated cultural economy. And in this tension between visibility and erasure, I think there's an important question that we all must ask. Whose voices are being amplified in the process of popularization, in the process of heritization, and at what cost? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pushpa. Well, let's do it so that we have time for one quick question, and then because we will have, after next presentation, we will have about 15 minutes break. We'll get some air there, and then it's your opportunity to talk to Pushpa more and ask her whatever there is in your mind. But time for one question. Pauli.
If no one else, I will do it. Hello, I'm Paulina. Really interesting and important research and work. And I started to wonder what kind of feedback or response have you got within the communities that you work with in Nepal? How has it been?
Yeah, so this tradition of Raktioli, this is my new field of research. So whatever quotes that you heard today, these were generated last March itself, like just this March 2025. I think I missed the slide where I actually talk about what women feel about this, playing along with the narrative and all together. So there is this trust in women that they feel that it's their right to be able to speak about their lived experience, including their sexual frustrations and also desires. And this is where actually that came, but I'm sorry that I had to miss it. But yeah, what they feel is it is their right to speak about it. It is their right to sing about it because their mothers had done it, their grandmothers had done it, and also it's their lived experiences as well, and they want to sing it in their songs. But what they worry about and what they want to defend about is the way they, their videos are taken and then chopped and then put it on social media. This is what they are strictly against, and this is also a lot of them fear about. So in many of my interviews, whenever I would ask them, so what kind of songs are bad songs? They would simply not want to talk about it at all because they are so scared of maybe someday they would go viral in the TikTok or something, right? So in this video that has like 555k views, the woman who is in the video sees is very popular in TikTok and everywhere for this particular video. So when I talked to her about my interview, initially she was excited about it, but then over the period she just stopped attending my calls. And later I could realize that women are very fearful that maybe they will be popular for wrong reasons, because these TikTok mafias are actually capitalizing out of women's heritage. And to address that, the next step in my research is to do some workshops together where we can try to build narrative, but that of women practitioners themselves. And we are trying to take this narrative to these competition organizers themselves, so that whenever they are, let's say, inviting these competition participants on stage, they actually send out the right narrative. And also whenever they are uploading these competition videos on YouTube, they are using the right narrative. Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pushpa, and thank you for your amazing work. Okay, stretch up a little bit. One more presentation before a small break. So my name is Vilma, Timonen, and I'm a lecturer at the Cinq Academy, University of the Arts, Helsinki. And today I will discuss my latest research, which provides insights to the professionalism in folk music. A couple of years back, I had a very casual conversation with one of our Cinq Academy leadership team members. And he did not know much about our education. And he asked me a question. It's like, Vilma, so what is quality? What does quality mean to you in folk music education? And I just couldn't find the answer like this. Kind of stumbled. And later when I thought about this question, kept hunting me, and kind of like, okay, we need to find an answer to this question, because it carries the essence. What do we want from our education? What kind of professionals are we educating, and why are certain qualities important for us in particular in folk music? Then there's this other question that keeps popping up in different kinds of situations, to the extent that it's become kind of like a casual joke among the folk music professionals, or whenever we discuss anything, eventually the question pops up, yeah, but what is folk music? So, and it's kind of rhetorical, because everyone knows that, okay, no one has answer to that question. But again, the question is the kind that I feel that as educators, as folk music professionals, we really need to be able to provide questions for this unanswerable question. So in a way, these two little stories give rise to two key theoretical perspectives that needed to be connected in my study. First, how do we understand folk music professionalism? And two, how do we understand the concept of heritage and tradition, as both of these guide, intentionally or unintentionally, our understanding of the desirable outcomes and contents of professional education, and therefore our understanding of the specialities of folk music professionalism. I've conducted this study together with Professor Emerita Ritva Engelström from the University of Helsinki. And our aim to articulate the professional character of traditional music takes place in an era where understandings of professional expertise in general is undergoing a shift from professional autonomy to a capacity that is needed in encountering diversity and multiplicity of overlapping activities. The scholarly perspectives of music professionalism have primarily focused on aspects of musical skills, teaching abilities, and their associated professional training. The research has highlighted professional qualities and capabilities such as improvisation skills, the ability to memorize and practice music, and the establishment of promotional skills as signs of music professionalism. This kind of technical rationale emphasizes music professions as a set of skills and competencies which are complemented by personal, perhaps even inborn qualities. However, as Barrett and Westerlund note, technical rationale neither takes into consideration the relational dimensions of professionalism that implies the use of one's expertise in intersects of the wider society, nor considers the fluctuating, expansive professional aspirations where music is utilized in unusual societal domains. Indeed, in response to the technical understanding of music professionalism, where mere musical skills form the professionalism, the current research has begun to encompass broader, more impactful aspects of music professionalism, including its intersubjective, social, and cultural dimensions. Perhaps due to the relatively young history in the educational field, the phenomenon of professionalism in traditional music has not yet sparked much scholarly attention. Due to the lack of theorization, the field's historical connotations to practitioners and relatively short presence in higher education, traditional music professionalism has remained a rather unarticulated and untheorized form of music profession. Considering traditional music, ethnomusicological research has primarily focused on mechanisms for preserving and safeguarding this type of music and illustrating the contextual teaching and learning methods that often take place in non-formal educational environments. Ethnomusicologically rooted ideas are reflected in multicultural music education, which has typically favored expertise of so-called tradition bearers. As Campbell writes, culture bearers are assumed to have been born into their community and are competent in the musical practices of their culture, and it is presumed that they are keeping close ties with the culture of their ancestry. Multicultural education has faced criticism for lacking a dynamic, transformative perspective and for essentializing identities. Critics contend it overlooks the fluid and situational nature of identity and neglects questions of who people aspire to become. Categorizing music and people by ethnicity or nationality overlooks the fact that even within seemingly homogeneous groups, significant diversity exists, and that traditions linked to one's heritage may feel unfamiliar when they are no longer actively practiced, like Laitinen has mentioned already in 1991. In traditional music, categories might prevent seeing the ways in which musical phenomena can be very local and very global at the same time, territorially located beyond national and cultural borders, and communally, but also individually reconstructed. Recently, there has been a shift from objectifying view of heritage towards a socio-constructivist approach, emphasizing heritage formation as dynamic process of multiple actors. These perspectives call for education to reconsider the tendency to define the quality of heritage through authenticity, and instead recognize change as part of a healthy heritage ecosystem. Then multiple stakeholders assign their own meanings and values to heritage. Harrison, 2015, adopts an ontological perspective of heritage, moving beyond the view of heritage as a singular situational practice. According to Harrison, heritage is neither fixed nor inherent, but emerges in dialogue among individuals, communities, practices, places, and things. He uses a metaphor of assembly in which people's competencies are enacted through practices. Ecological ontology of heritage dismantles the dichotomies of tangible versus intangible, natural versus human, and past versus present. It proposes understanding heritage as diplomatic properties emerging in the dialogue of heterogeneous human and non-human actors who are engaged in practices of caring for attending to the past in the present. Ethnomusicologists Shippers and Grant have introduced a model which leans on ecological thinking. The scholars suggest 5 domains of practices which impact music sustainability. These include systems of learning music, musicians and communities, context and constructs, infrastructure and regulation, and media and the music industry. Shippers and Grant's ecological ideas, however, pay minor attention to the link between personal motives and social dialogues, and thus lose the connection to transformative agency. So, let's now move to our study. In our study, we used 6 alumni's experiences of working as folk music professionals and their reflective accounts on this music professionalism. Our analytical tools emerge from theories of boundary crossing, which have opened a new horizon in understanding professional work, and uses the lens of dialogism. The analysis focused on tensions in the in-between spaces of meaning-making processes among professionals. The research questions were: what is the nature of professional folk musicians' activities within the traditional music ecosystem? What types of boundaries are apparent in the accounts of these professional folk musicians? And how do these boundaries enhance our understanding of folk music professionalism? Then we discuss the implications of these findings to music education related to traditional music. To answer the first question, we use the Shippers and Grant's ecosystem model to illustrate what the professionals actually do. The data from this study revealed the significant role that the professional folk musicians play in the heritage ecology. Therefore, we do suggest investing in professional education in traditional music, especially when sustainability is at stake. As explained in the literature, the boundaries can be identified by tensions. Thus, in this phase, I saw tensions in the interviews of folk musicians and analyzed the kinds of dialogues involved in these tensions. Through this, 4 kinds of boundaries could be identified. The intersecting types of social living, voices of the past, archival, future-oriented music making, identities of cultural representative and professional musician, and intersecting activities of educator and musician. The musicians expressed that they did not identify themselves with any particular tradition, cultural background, or geographical location. Rather, they had fallen in love with the music, its qualities, and expressive means. The musicians' artistic work was based on a method where they searched for material in archives and used it as a source for their artistic work. Archival work was seen to offer a valuable connection to past communities and their people, and also to contextual understandings and the function of the music. However, the use of archival material brought tensions between the authenticity of the traditional style and authenticity of one's own artistic voice in music. The interviewees were also looking for the right way to break the rules of tradition, yet they considered what the lines were and that should not be crossed. None of the interviews displayed a strong local identity. Their hybrid backgrounds made it challenging to provide clear answers to questions related to identity or the ownership of the traditions. Also, the interviewees addressed their uneasiness to position themselves into political aspects of traditional music. Additional tensions arose also when they were treated as local and national representatives in the eyes of wider public. Educational work constituted a part of the professionals' activities, and however, their approach to education appeared to be very different from traditional master-apprentice models, instead emphasizing participatory methods to help students connect with the traditions. So, in the intrapersonal level of activities, boundary crossing refers to terms such as brokers, boundary crossers, and boundary workers, which are employed to highlight the roles of individuals who navigate complex sociocultural landscapes. Those who traverse or inhabit these in-between spaces actively negotiate the meanings and perspectives of the various social worlds they intersect. This activity indicates an indefinable quality, neither fully belonging to one world or the other, but rather embodying a state of fluidity and ambivalence. At the boundaries, people do not merely act as connectors between distinct worlds, but they also embody the divisions between related contexts and constructs. This position allows individuals to function as both representatives of their originating domains and as individuals who are articulating and address the multiple meanings of both contexts. This duality underscores the role of agency, which involves fostering dialogue and negotiating meanings, while highlighting the challenges and valuable insights that arise from boundary encounters. The folk musician's professional work is rooted in processing embodied and cognitive knowledge of traditional music genres and ascribing associated meanings to them within and through artistic practice. This work involves identifying the musical and socio-cultural characteristics of traditional music, which in artistic processes were reflected, encountered, and reorganized, leading potentially to reconstructed meaning-making. For instance, bridging the boundaries of traditional music styles and contemporary performance settings requires simultaneously identifying the constraints and opportunities of both contexts. In the professional practice of folk musicians, the tensions within this boundary often led to resolution through a process of hybridization. Then, traditional material was transformed into contemporary music. Encountering the boundary carried thus potential for creative processes, leading to a hybrid musical outcome that blends elements from diverse domains to create something original and unexpected. The political nature of folk musicians' boundary work became particularly visible in dialogical activity between the past and current communities and contemporary artistic and educational domains. At times, dissonances between the conflicting perspectives of the domains led to identification, where the contradictions remained unresolved, resulting, for instance, in not using musical material from oppressed minorities. At times, the discontinuities led to processes of coordination, a dialogical activity between diverse practices and perspectives. Then, for instance, the use of particular musical material could be justified through interpersonal perspective making and hybridization, like when the musicians felt confident to present music based on particular style after thorough knowledge acquisition and personal perspective take. The tension of cultural representative and just a musician called reflective processes. Many had, through identification, found ways to legitimizing coexistence of being both and embracing simultaneously their role as tradition bearers and the role of being contemporary artists. Our study calls for placing significant weight on ontological and epistemological groundings the education is constructed on. We propose an ecological understanding of heritage as a foundation for music education. The findings highlight heritage as a living, ever-evolving ecology, which necessitates incorporating contextual understandings to music education, which enhance students' ethical, cultural, societal, and historical understandings. The educational ideas based on heritage ecology challenge the nationally or culturally bounded narratives of heritage expertise as inbornness to a cultural group, the V often associated with traditional music. Instead, it suggests investing in education that provides not only music and artistic capabilities, but also strengthens students' abilities to critically examine heritage practices and recognize and reflect on their own positionality in shaping the heritage ecology, regardless of their innate qualities and cultural heredity. These kinds of epistemological groundings underscores the necessity of placing dialogical abilities as one of the core competencies of traditional music expertise in ways that recognize this form of music professionalism as both unitary and multiple, both continuous and discontinuous, and both individual and social, and where critical ability to navigate, manage, distinguish, and integrate diverse discourses and practices across the boundaries of heritage ecology are key competencies. Indeed, if education centralizes boundary crossing and dialogical abilities alongside the musical competencies, students would be educated to respond and act reflexively and simultaneously from multiple personal viewpoints, from a group or community perspective, and from universal human standpoints. This focus on developing the ability to navigate between diverse perspectives, so-called boundary crossing competence or personal fortitude, might be a much needed traditional music education aim, as that would construct eventually socially and culturally sustainable folk music professionalism. Thank you. Let's keep this question and answer also very short. One question and then we open the doors and let the air come a little bit, and then we have a little bit time for break, and maybe if you have any questions for Pushpa or me in addition. Yes?
I think for very interesting. One like kind of to like synthesize it to some kind of how do you balance like between like navigating the power imbalances with between different cultural communities like cultural exchange more on both communities like terms, and at the same time like as you said, like getting away from the essentialist perspective.
Yeah. Yes, excellent question. And indeed, how then the question is, if we say that okay, we should centralize these critical abilities, which incorporates kind of reflecting these different power hierarchies and dynamics. How is that being done in education? What are actually the kind of skills that provide these kind of means? I think, and again, then becomes this really difficult questions also of communities, because there is no one voice with one community, and we're also talking about past communities and kind of representation in such multiple contexts and constructs. So indeed, this is something that needs consideration. In general, I believe kind of it all comes down, of course, because when we know that there's ethical questions, there is questions of power and powerlessness. There is no simple one-way answer. Okay, never do this or always do this. Those rarely exists. So in a way, kind of constructing the students and the professionals' ability to kind of take into consideration multiple viewpoints. And in the end, it is the artist or the practitioner, the professional, who needs to decide what is right for me from my groundings, and am I sure that I know what I'm dealing with, and then we take this perspective and kind of make the solutions. Or then it happens so that there is the discontinuity and it doesn't happen. But teaching our students to kind of deal with these emotions as well, kind of, because it causes a lot of tension, that helping us self-identify that, okay, this is part of the work, that we need to deal with these tensions, and it's openly discussed, and also kind of providing the means to kind of search for multiple perspectives, and then the support to kind of make those decisions. But it's a really interesting path, and I'm kind of thinking that this is the path that we need to step in soonish. No, but thank you, excellent viewpoint. But now, let's have a little break, and thank you so much all for participating. We will continue quarter 2, and we hear a little bit from Kaustinen from the festival point of view. If you haven't met the festival program director Anne-Mari Hakamäki, this is your chance to hear her, how she manages with these festival things and these aims for preserving the traditions. And then we have an example, a very interesting presentation coming from all the way from Rajasthan. So join us in 10 minutes. Thank you.